Hi, Ashley here with HeartHookHome.com, and today we're going to be making the new Cozy Coed Cardigan in size small. This is a companion video to the paid pattern that is available on Ravelry. There are many sizes: small, medium, large, extra large, 2XL, 3XL, and 4XL, and then the tall versions of all of those as well. So if you are not making the size small, just follow along with your pattern and change out the numbers as we go. This is also a great opportunity to learn how to read crochet patterns. So I've printed off the size small that we'll be making, and I'm going to walk you through each one. So first, we do use a foundation half double crochet to start this cardigan. If you do not know how to do the foundation half double crochet, I have a tutorial video for that. I strongly suggest it. It looks a lot better on the finished product. If you, however, just do not want to, you can chain 71, or one more than your pattern states, half double crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each to end, and that would leave you with 70 stitches for your first row. So as I'm going to make the first row here, I'll talk a little bit about the pattern, the materials needed, etc., etc. I do like to have stitch markers available when I'm making these, especially for the collar rows, because I want to make sure that I'm marking and going into the correct stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and start my foundation half double crochet. All of the pattern sizes are different, so of course this is a vertical row cardigan, so some of your beginning chains will be longer. It just depends on what size you're making. This yarn that I'm using, it's a worsted weight, size 4, Aran, you could call it, yarn, medium. And I'm using a J 6mm crochet hook. The gauge listed on the pattern is 11 stitches in 4 inches and 10 rows in 4 inches. So you can make a swatch before you get started to make sure that you're really needing to use that 6mm hook the same way that I am. Some people crochet tighter, some people crochet looser. When you're crocheting clothing or things to wear, it's very important that you do check that gauge beforehand to make sure that your finished product will end up just the same size as mine. On the pattern, in the pattern notes, I have added a sizing chart, which tells you the distance between the armholes in the back before starting the sleeves. It tells you how long it is from your neck, so the ball of your neck, right at the top of your back, down to the bottom hem. So you can kind of figure out, okay, should I make the medium or the large, and look at the measurements. If you're not sure, if the person is not with you, you could always go to the store or borrow, someone else's if you have someone in your home that wears the same size, and measure that jacket. In order to create these patterns, I actually went to Target with my measuring tape and I measured a whole bunch of jackets to make sure that my sizing was on pace with standard sizes. I would definitely check those out first. If you're making it for someone within your home, just find one of their jackets and measure their jackets and see if this one would fit along next to that. So I'm doing my foundation half double crochet. I love this stitch. It looks very nice on the bottom. The reason that we're doing this is it's got the nice V's on the bottom that we will then need to go into to start the second panel. So that's why I prefer this stitch as opposed to just chaining and going back through. Let me pull my yarn. But it really does make the second half much more seamless. You would be able to see it a little bit more if you use the chain. That's not to say you can't, but this would be the preferable method. $68. $69. And 70. Awesome. Okay, so we've got our 70 foundation stitches here. This is row 1 completed, right? Now we are going to rows 2 through 42. I'm not sure why I wrote it this way, but I did. So rows 2, chain 1, turn, half double crochet in each stitch to end so that we have 70 stitches. And then in rows 3 through 42, we're doing the same exact thing. So for 70 stitches, 42 rows, right? I'm not going to sit here and do 42 rows with you because I feel pretty confident that we can do that independently. But I am going to do my first. So I chained 1, turned. Now I'm going to half double crochet in each stitch to end, starting with this one right here. So I'm going to half double crochet all the way to the end. When I get to the end of this row, I will have 70 stitches because I started with 70 on the first row. And then I am going to complete another until I get to the end of row 42. And that row will be different. This is the back of your cardigan, right? So we're making a large rectangle. If you're making a larger size, the back will have more rows in it. So follow your pattern. I'm ending at 42 for this being the size small. You might end on, 50 or any other number in between there, depending on what size you're making. So just because I'm doing 42 rows doesn't mean you necessarily will, unless you are also making this size small. So I'm going to continue working in half double crochet all the way to the end of this row. When I get to the end, I'm going to chain 1 and continue working in rows. When I get to where we're starting the next row, after row 42, when we start row 43, we'll hook back up together and we'll knock that out together. All right, guys, we have 42 beautiful rows of half double crochet. I'm going to count these with you real quick and I'll show you how I count them. You'll be able to tell how many rows you've got. I'm going to flip this over. All right, this is our foundation half double crochet row right here, and this would be row 2. So this is row 1, this is row 2, 3, 4. So all of these ridges right here are 2 rows. So when I count, I say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Let's move it down. 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. Move that down. Hold my spot. 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42. So this is my row 42. Get that yarn out of the way. So at the end of row 42, let's look at our pattern. Okay, at the end of row 42, so we're starting row 43. 43 and 44, this is where you're going to do underneath the arm. Okay, so this is the bottom of the armhole. We're going to do chain 1 and turn, half double crochet in 48 stitches. So only 48. We're not going all the way to the top. We're only doing the first 48 stitches. So we will chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do 48. A little yarn barf going on here. Okay. So how many do we have now? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, You can hear my children being lovely upstairs. I'm sorry about that. Take care of that in a moment. Okay, and I lost count. I think I'm at 46. Okay, we'll count real quick. And it's important to count too, just to make sure that you're on pace. $48. Woohoo! All right. So we are at the end of row 43. So we did 48 stitches. Let's do 44, which is chain 1, turn, half double crochet, and 48 stitches. So here, instead of going all the way to the end of the row, continuing here, we're going to chain 1 and turn. Oh my gosh, you guys. I think they're hoarding elephants up there. Or herding elephants. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Okay, so now we are at the end of row 44. So this is 48 stitches. So now the last 2 rows that we did stop mid-row, right? This is going to be our armhole when we're all said and done. So let's see where we are. We are about to start row 45. So we are going to chain 1, turn, half double crochet in the 48 stitches. So we're going to go all the way up to here. And then chain 23. Okay? So chain 1, turn. We're going to half double crochet in 48, so all the way to the end there where we stopped. The number of rows that you do in this part will vary depending on what size you're making. So mine is only 2 rows and then I do this row. Some other patterns are going to be, you know, 7 or even 13. It just depends on what size you're making. So keep that in mind. Just follow your own pattern. The numbers will be different as well. Some of them, like this one's 48, some of them are going to be more or less depending on the size and the length of your cardigan. Oops, excuse me. So just follow along with the size that you're making. This again is the small size. Sorry, I keep having to pull my yarn is starting to collapse on me, my skein, so it's, which I hate. I like it when it has the nice little hole in the middle of the skein. Okay, so I made it to the end. So this is 48 stitches, right? So from the beginning to where we currently are is 48. Now it says, and then chain 23. Okay, so chain 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay, so now we have, here, I'm gonna have to restart my video here in just a second. So let me lay this out and then I'll reconnect. So for row 46, we're going to half double crochet in the second chain from hook and each stitch to end. So we're going to go into the second and all the way back down to the bottom so that we have 70 again. So I'm going to turn my work. Okay, I've got this chain that I just did. Now I'm going to half double crochet into the second and each stitch to end. So I'm going to do each one of these chains You can totally tell I have two young boys, preteen, and one that thinks he's 18. Okay, so we got to the end of the chain. So this is the chain 23 we did. So now we have 22 stitches on this because we went into the second, right? So now here is that bottom part of the armhole. We're just gonna keep going half double crochet all the way to the end so that we still have 70 stitches like we have had. Okay, approaching this end. Now for the next set of rows, we're going back to just flat out rows like we did on the back part to get the 42. So this is the end of, let me look, 46. This is the end of row 46. So what we've created here is this nice little armhole. When we're done, we're going to turn this, we're going to sew this up, and then we're going to put the sleeve right here, right? So we just completed row 46, where we went into the second chain from hook in each stitch to end. Now, for 47 through 62, we're doing exactly what we did up here to create the back panel. So literally another 15 rows-ish, something like that, so 15, 16 rows. We're going to do the same exact thing. So I'm going to continue crocheting until I get to row 62. I'll go ahead and start this row with you, and then I'm going to fade out, and when I get done with 62, I'll hook back up with you, we'll fasten off, and then we'll start the other side. I think an episode of Gladiators is happening upstairs, so I'm going to go get on that, and I'll be back in a moment. And we are approaching the end of row 62. Keep in mind that if you're making a different size, you'll be on a different row number. But we are at the end of the first part of the pattern. Now, let's look at the pattern. So we just finished row 62. So now we're going to fasten off. Go ahead and clip our yarn down here and fasten that off. So now we have our large rectangle that we started with. We have this little flat part here, which will be different sizes depending on what size you're making. It could be really big, it could be really small. And then this is the front panel, right? So this will be one shoulder, and this will be where the chest is, right here. So now we've got to create one of these on the other side. So flip it to where your top of the cardigan is at the left. So this is the top over here. Okay, we're going to go to the other side of the bottom, and this is our foundation where we started, our foundation half double crochet. This is why I said it would be better to use this stitch, because now we're going to go into these stitches, or the bottom technically, of that foundation half double crochet and create the second side. Let's take a look at the pattern. Other side with the top of cardigan to your left. Fasten onto the bottom of cardigan with slip stitch. We're going to chain 1 and half double crochet in 48 stitches. So basically we're creating the same thing that we did up here, just down here. So we're going to fasten on, chain 1, and half double crochet in 48. When you fasten on, you're going to go into that very first stitch, which is not this one, that's just the knot. We're going into this one right here. Okay. And then we're going to pull up some yarn. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to half double crochet in 48. Since you're going into the bottom part of the foundation, you might need to turn your hook just a little bit to go more of it at an angle. But it's going to create, see how every 2 rows we've got this ridge? It's going to end up doing the same thing on this side, because this is going to be the ridge and this is going to be the ridge. So you can't tell that we skipped anything when we're done. I lost count, so I'm going to go ahead and count now so that I can know where I am when I get there. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 44, 45, 46, 47, and 48. All right, so now we're going to do the same exact thing that we did on the other side. We're going to do another row of 48, and we're going to do another row of 48, do our chain 23, and then do half double crochet in the second chain from hook and each to the end, just like we just did on the other side. And then we'll fasten off when we're done there. So now we're going to create the second front, and I'll meet you up at the end. So now we are at the point where we're going to sew the shoulders together. So these are our armholes. Now we're going to take our left side and our right side, and we're going to fold them in like this. So now this is our armhole right here. So we're going to fold in the other side. And when we fold these together, we are going to line up the armholes here, and then we're going to sew from this corner to this corner. Then we're going to sew from this corner to this corner. This should leave us with 8 rows in the back, and that doesn't matter what size you're making. It should leave you with 8 rows along the back. So I'm going to grab my needle and thread. We are using the mattress stitch to sew these together. I have a tutorial for this as well on my YouTube channel if you need to watch it. I love this method for sewing crochet together. It's my favorite. So I'm going to get this prepared. We're going to go in and we are just going to sew back and forth from here to here. I like to make sure to grab both sides of that last stitch from the back. Leave yourself a decent sized tail for sewing on. When we put the sleeve on, if there's any hole here at the top of the sleeve, we'll use this to kind of gather it and make it to where you can't see it. So I'm going to sew across the entire top here, just back and forth. I find that it kind of helps if you turn this one down and pull it like this, and then you can just go back and forth like this. The mattress stitch is really just like lacing a shoe, if you want to equate it to that. So I'm just going to sew back and forth on both sides to create those shoulder seams. It's a good idea every so often to stop, make sure that it's pulled tight enough. I mean, don't make it pucker, but just tight enough to where that seam is nice and together and not going anywhere. As soon as we're done sewing this on both sides, we're going to add the sleeves. I'm going to do the sleeves first for the video. In the pattern, the sleeves are last. I'm just going to do the sleeves first so that I can do one, and then I'll do the other one off camera. And then when we meet back up for the edging, we'll have both of the sleeves completed. So if you need to watch the part of the sleeves twice, that's cool. I'll let you know where those times are when I upload the video. So if you want to watch it again. Okay, now when you get to this last one here, when we do the edging, we're going to have a part where we go into this last stitch from the front and the last sewn stitch from the back. So when we get there, we'll talk about it. But it's very important to make sure that you keep track, or that you pay attention to the last stitch that you're going into. So this one, technically right here, is the last stitch of the front. Okay, so I'm going to pull this tight. I'm going to take out my needle. I'm going to leave this yarn tail right where it is. I'm going to leave this yarn tail here and this yarn tail here. When we are done, we will use, completely done with the collar and everything, we will use these yarn tails to kind of cinch up any small holes that are left, just any imperfections. Just make sure it look a little more professional. So now we have one sewn shoulder, and here is our armhole. Awesome. Now let's go over to the other side. We're going to do the same exact thing on this side, and I personally like to start from the outside and work my way in, just because of the way that things line up. If you want to start at the inside and work your way out, that's fine. Just make sure that you line this up really well before you start sewing and get all the way to the end and you're like off a little bit on the end. Does that make sense? It's easier to fix the imperfections in the middle than it is on the shoulder. So now I'm going to sew up the other side, leaving myself a decent sized tail. And we're just going to go back and forth again with the mattress stitch. Benson. Benson. Oops, sorry. I get wild with my sewing. Oh, Lordy. It's kind of fun to, or nice looking, if you try to make sure that your ridges, see how you've got these ridges on the back, if they kind of match up to the ridges on the front, it'll help in the end to make your product look a little more professional. Of course, it doesn't have to. It'll still look nice, and it won't be something that you'll notice, most likely. Almost done. And then we'll start one of these fancy, fancy sleeves. The sleeves, I have redone the sleeves on the Painted Canyon cardigan, which is another cardigan of mine. It's the horizontal row version of this one. I did the sleeves differently on that one. I really like the sleeves on this one better. If you have both of those patterns, and if you want to do the sleeves this way on that one, it would work. As long as you find the correct number of stitches to start with on the pattern, it would work to do the sleeves that way as well. Make it nice and uniform. I like the sleeves on this one because they are in rows instead of worked in a spiral. Okay, so this one right here, let's see, this right here is my last stitch from this front. And when we get there to the pattern on that part of the collar, that's where we're going to be stitching into. Okay, so here we are finished at this one. I'm going to toss that yarn end away. Let's take a look at what we've got here. I'm going to kind of pull these both a little bit. All right, so now we've got an entire shell of a cardigan with 2 armholes. Let me see if I can, yay! So now we are going to do the sleeves. I'm going to do one sleeve, and then we'll do this, I'll do the second sleeve by myself, and then we will get caught up with the collar, and that's it. We are almost done. How exciting. All right, we are ready to start on these sleeves. First, we are going to attach yarn at bottom center of armhole with slip stitch. The sleeves are all going to be different because if you recall, when we were creating this bottom part here that's under the armhole, some sizes are going to be a lot larger than others, depending on, you know, the larger sizes are going to be larger. So the instructions for the bottom of the sleeve are going to be different for every single size. I think that this will make sense once we do it. So if you have any questions with the starting of the sleeve, let me know. But for the most part, you just attach to the center, bottom center of the armhole, and make sure you start each new round in the same stitch as turning chain. That's very important. And as we're crocheting this along, I'll help you. So with round 1, this is going to be different on each size. The small, we're going to chain 1, half double crochet 2 together, and then we're going to half double crochet around the entire opening of 44 stitches. Okay, so chain 1, half double crochet 2 together. So I went ahead and inserted in the center bottom of the armhole, right? So now I've got my yarn. I'm going to pull up a loop. Here, I'm going to leave a decent sized tail so that we can use this for sewing later. I like to leave decent tails. Okay, so first we are going to chain 1. And then we are going to half double crochet 2 together. Let me pull this closer to the camera. All right, so now we are going to half double crochet 2 together. So we are going to go into this first one because we always go into the same. Okay, pull up a loop. Now we're going to yarn over and go into this next one right here. Okay, so we half double crochet 2 together in the very first 2 stitches. All right, so there's our half double crochet 2 together. You might want to pull this tail that we have here, pull it just a little bit to kind of cinch up that stitch. Leave it tucked inside the armhole here. And now we're going to half double crochet 44 times around the arm opening. That number will be different if you're on a different size. Just do as many as it says. So here's 1. Let me move back to the side so I can do this while you're watching. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull my yarn. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, so now we are at the top of the armhole. Okay, so now we've gone from the bottom to the top of the armhole, and then we're going to come back down the other side. Let me turn just a little bit so that we can look at the other side of the armhole here. Okay, pull our tail just a little bit. I'm going to leave that up and out of the way. So now I'm going to go, instead of going into the chain of this one, because this was our foundation half double crochet over here, and this was the chain when we did our chain 23, right? 48 and then chain 23. Now we're going to go in between these stitches. Instead of going into the top of those chains like this and only hooking one small little bit of thread for the sleeve, I don't like to do that because I want my sleeve to be super sturdy. So instead I go in between these stitches. So I'll go here and then here, 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 here to go in between, so you're hooking a lot more yarn. Now you might notice that that does leave a little bit of a gap here, right? That's why we have this tail here. We're going to use this to kind of sew it up and make it as seamless as possible. So that would be stitch number 23 that we just completed. 24, 25, pull my yarn, 26 in between these stitches, 27, 28. You're hooking a lot more yarn that way. That's 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. We're almost there. Yay! This first round is the worst. So we got 41, 42, 43, 44. Well, let's make sure we're putting that in the right spot. Yes, 44 right here. And then, okay, so we chained one, half double crocheted two together, then we half double crocheted in the next 44, which we just finished. Now we're going to half double crochet in the next opening and join to the top of the first stitch with a slip stitch. So we're going to go into the top. This is the bottom of the armhole again, right? We just crocheted our way around the entire armhole. Now we're back to the bottom. This is where we started with our half double crochet two together. Now we're going to half double crochet in the next opening, which would be this one right here. And now we are going to join to the top of that first stitch, which is that half double crochet two together, which is right here. We're going to join with a slip stitch. Okay, so now first row is completed. Yay! Awesome. Okay, there's our first row. Looks nice. I do recommend going back through and counting your stitches. I know that since we did this together that I'm going to have 46 because I counted out loud while I do it, while we did it. Okay, so now on the next part, the sleeves are all going to be different. For this one, for rounds 2 through 4, we're going to chain one, turn, and half double crochet in each stitch around, and then join to the top of the first stitch with a slip stitch so that we still have 46 stitches in the next 2, 3, 4, right? So in the next 3 rounds, 2 through 4, we're going to just do even rounds. So I will do 3 more rounds, and then we will start back up with round 5, where we start doing decreases to make the sleeve taper. Chain one, turn, so we're looking at the inside of the jacket now. And as noted in the instructions at the beginning of the sleeve, you want to make sure that you're putting your first stitch in the same as join. So this is where we joined. We're going to put our first stitch right into this guy right here. And now we're going to do 46 around that opening. Okay, I just completed row 4. Now we're going to start round 5. Now if you take a look, you'll notice that the sleeve pattern for all sizes follows a 4-row repeat with just different numbers going through. So on the first one, we're going to half double crochet in the first 44, half double crochet 2 together. Then we're going to go back around in a full row. Then we're going to go back around. We're going to do the half double crochet first. So it alternates half double crochet at the end of the row, half double crochet at the beginning of the row, at the end, at the beginning, at the end, at the beginning, all the way around so that those line up as you're working. So let's start with row 5. We're going to chain one, turn, half double crochet in 44 stitches, and then in the last 2 we'll do a decrease. So we're going to chain one and turn. Now we are going to do half double crochet in 44. We always start in the same as join, so we're going to go into this one right here. We're going to do 44 stitches around the opening. And we kind of have to turn it quite a bit at the beginning. Once we get to the end of the sleeve, obviously it's a lot easier to turn because you don't have to turn the bulk of the cardigan with it, just the end of the sleeve. So we are going all the way around until we get to the end. We're going to do a half double crochet, 2 together here in just a second. Readjust here. Okay, so the 2 that we're going to do the half double crochet in is going to be this one and this one. So I've got 2 more, so this is 43 and this is 44 per the pattern, row 5 of the small. So now I've got these 2 stitches left over. This is where we attached last time, so that doesn't count. It's these 2 that are unworked, that are open and available. Kind of like your best friend from high school. Just kidding. Open and available. Half double crochet 2 together, right, at the last 2. And now we are going to attach to, or hook, slip stitch to the top of the first stitch, which is this one right here, right? So we're going to slip stitch that together. Boom, we are done with row 5. Now on row 6, chain 1, turn, half double crochet each stitch around. So right now we have 45. We're going to do a solid row of 45. So we're going to chain 1, turn. We're going to do our half double crochet in the very first stitch right here. And when we get around, we'll have 45 left. 45 stitches. Keep turning my work here, or rotating as I go. 44, and this would be stitch number 45. Now we're going to join to the top of that first one, which is this V right here. Slip stitch, chain 1, turn. Okay, now when we're looking at this, you can see that we did our half double crochet 2 together right here, right on the row 5. So this is the end of row 5. This is row 6 that we just completed. So now we're going to start row 7. In order to keep the seam straight and the decreases on each side like this, we're going to do our row 7. We're going to do the half double crochet 2 together first, and then we'll complete the end of the round and join to the top. So we're going to do our half double crochet first, half double together first, in the first stitch, right, same as join, this one right here, and then half double crochet that together, boom, 4 on our loop, or 5 on our hook, and then we're going to do another 43 stitches, so all the way to the end. So every other row we do a decrease, and we change whether we do it at the beginning or the end so that the seam stays nice and clean and straight. The way that we do this seam, the seam will always be on the underside of your arm, so you won't be able to see it unless you're walking around with your hand sticking up in the air, which I don't think is going to be a problem. Let's see, all the way around. And then since we alternate rows, the next row will be a solid HDC row. Almost there. Okay, so we're going to half double crochet in the last open stitch from that row, right? This one has yarn coming out of it, so that's not, this would be our last one right here. And that is the end of row 7. So now we're going to slip stitch to the top of that first stitch, slip that bad boy, boom, chain 1, turn, and now we're going to complete row 8, which is just half double crochet in each stitch around. So this one will have 44, just like the last one. Okay, last open available stitch. We got it. No, we don't. We got one more. Okay, so this is our decrease, right, from the last row. This is where the yarn is going in. This is technically still available. Nothing's going into that stitch, so let's hook into that. Let's hook up with that stitch. Okay, slip stitch to the top of that first one. Boom, chain 1, turn. Okay, now we are going to start row 9, and like we said, let's take a look here. Okay, we've got our half double crochet 2 together right here, then we've got a regular row, we've got a half double crochet on this side, so from here to here, and then a regular row. Now we're going to continue the pattern where we've got one here, then we're going to do one here, and then we'll do one here, and then we'll do one here, and then we'll do one here. We're just stair-stepping them so that the seam stays straight. So we are going to follow the pattern. We are on row 9. We are going to chain 1, turn, which we just did, half double crochet in the next 42, and then half double crochet 2 together. So literally we are just doing the same exact thing we've done up here. We're just doing it one less time because every other row we decrease, right? So I'm not going to do all 50 rows on camera because it's literally the same thing, but we'll go ahead and do one more rotation, okay? So we're going to, and by rotation I mean set of decreases. So there's the first one. We're going to go all the way around to the end and do that decrease. We just got that much left to go on this row. Remember, when we get to the last two, since this is a decrease at the end of this row, we're going to go until we have 2 available left. Okay, so here we've got, that one's taken, this one's taken, these 2 are the only 2 left, so let's half double crochet those 2 together. Okay, we're going to slip stitch to the top of that. Now we're going to do a regular row of just straight up HDC. Chain 1, turn, half double crochet around. In the first, right? Since we always go into that very first one, it's kind of important not to do your slip stitch too tight, because you're always going to go into that first one. Sometimes it's a little tight to get into if you've, you know, really pulled that last stitch tight. So it shouldn't hurt anything necessarily, but I just find it's a lot nicer to have it just a little bit loose, not a super tight slip stitch. And another thing that's nice is that the farther you get on these sleeves, the faster the rows go, because there's fewer stitches. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, but I get excited every time I get to the end because it starts going so much faster. All right, so this will be the end of row 10. Then we're about to start row 11, which will be a decrease row. Okay, that one's being taken, so we're going to slip stitch to the top right here. Chain 1, turn. Okay, let's check out our decreases and our fuzzies. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, we're about to put one here. We are on row 11, so we're going to chain 1, do our half double together first, and then go all the way around. These sleeves are so much easier than they look, I think. Once you get the hang of it, you got it. Okay, so we're going to go into the very first one, which is this one. Oops, sorry, I keep hitting that with my wrist. Half double crochet 2 together, and then go around in its entirety. Almost there. And then this next row, since we did a decrease on this row, no matter where it is, the next row is going to be a solid half double crochet row. Right? Okay, that one's taken. So this is our last one. It's joined to the top of that bad guy. Boom, boom. Hey. Chain 1, turn. Half double crochet in the first, right here, and each around. So this would be row 12. And keep in mind, all your rows are going to be different. Some people, the larger sizes have longer arms, of course, right? So some of the row numbers will be different. So you just follow the pattern for the size that you're making, unless, of course, you're making the size small. Last available, right here. Slip stitch. Chain one, turn. So now we've got a decent little sleeve going here, right? Yay! And I like how the ridges line up with the rest of the cardigan. See how nice this looks? Very nice and clean, very nice. Beautiful. And I just unraveled some stitches when I pulled that. Not so beautiful. Let me finish this up and then we'll start the next row. Okay, so we just finished row 12. If you need to count your rows, I find it easiest to find your first decrease down here. You can kind of see where the cardigan stops and the sleeve starts. So if you look at your first decrease, that's row 1, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we are about to start row 13. And let's also take a note real quick. I know we keep doing this, but I'm not going to record the whole entire video of me making the sleeve. So let's take a look at our decreases. Here's a decrease, here's a decrease, here's a decrease, and then we're going to put there's a decrease here, and then we're going to put a decrease right here. So we keep stair-stepping these, and notice how our seam stays nice and straight. So we're going to go ahead and start row 13 is what we're on. And we're going to place that half double crochet in the last two over here. So we're going to start with our first stitch in the first, very first place. We're going to half double crochet all the way around. Move this out of the way so I can pull my yarn all the way around. And then I think after this row, or maybe the next row, I'll let you finish the sleeve without me, and I'll finish my sleeve without you, and then we will continue the bottom of the sleeve, which is the ribbing, and then we'll be ready to start the collar. Yay! The collar is the most confusing part of this pattern. I've tried to write it in a manner that is not so confusing, but it'll still be helpful to do it together, I think. Okay, we are getting there. Keep those last two stitches available. That one's taken, so we're going to half double crochet in these two together, decrease. Okay, slip to the top of the first one. And now this next row, since we did a decrease in this one, the next row is just going to be solid half double crochet. First stitch and all the way around. Last available, slip stitch to the first. Okay, and now you're just going to complete your pattern the same exact way we've been doing, just do one less stitch every time you do a decrease. Right, now we are getting to the end of the last half double crochet row on the sleeve. This will be a different number for every pattern, but this is the last row, and it should be an odd number, meaning that the number of stitches you have should be an odd number of stitches. The small ends with 29 stitches. Slip stitch, I'm going to chain one and turn and get ready for this bottom part. Let me flatten this out a little bit. Okay. So now we had just ended with 29 on round 38. Now we're going to start 39, and this is front post half double crochet and back post half double crochet. These are pretty easy stitches. I have another tutorial for this on YouTube if you want to refresh, or if you're brand new, they're a lot easier than they look. So I'm going to front post around the front, back post around the next. Okay, so I've already chained one. I'm going to do a front post around the very first, which is going to be this post right here. Front. And then we're going to do a back. And then a front. And then a back. And alternate this around. It'll tell you how many times to repeat this. You're just going to do it until you get to the end of the sleeve, or to the end of that row. Okay, so let's read this. We are on round 39 right now. So front post around the first, back around the next, repeat that 13 times, right? And then, which we just did, now we're going to front post around the next and then join to the top of the first with a slip stitch. So we're going to front post around the next, which is this one right here. The next is your chain when you start, so we're going to slip stitch to the top of the first front post right here, and that creates to where it looks like any other one of these. Now, since we chain one and turn, we're on row 40. We're going to do the opposite, the exact opposite. We're going to back post around the first, which is technically the last first of that one, right? So, and then we're going to do front or back, front, back, front, back, front. We're going to repeat that the same amount of times, and it's just going to look exactly the same when we're done. And Yeah, so instead of doing the front post around the last stitch, we're going to do the back post around the last stitch, and then we'll alternate again those last 2 rows. So let's do this. Row 40, 40. Okay, so we chain 1, turn, right? Now, technically, this was a front post when we just did, but now we want it to be a back post because we're looking at it from the opposite direction. So go ahead and make that a back post. And then just continue all the way around the sleeve. Let me get my, there we go. All right, do a front here and a back. That first row is always worse than the other ones. I'm a little overzealous with my hook in there. Okay, we are almost to the end, so this is a back. Now we're going to do a front post around this back one. I mean a back post around this back one, right? It makes it look like a front post from the outside. Now we are going to join to the top of the first back post. So this is the first back post since it pushed it to the back, right? So the top of that stitch is going to be right here. So it's the top of this stitch where we're going to slip stitch together. And so now looking at that from the outside, the inside, it's not too pretty, but chain 1 and turn, and let's look at the outside. Doesn't that look nice? Yay. So now we're going to do the front post row. So we're going to go front post around this one, back, front, back, just so that these line up. Since this round was started with a front post, we're going to end with this back post, and this is our last one, so we're going to do a front post around this one to bring that to the front. Oops. And then we're going to slip stitch to the top of the first actual front post, which is the top of this one right here. Let me see. Here it is. There's the top. I have to turn it a little bit. All right, so now we're going to chain 1 and do a back post row. Okay, so this is the very last ribbing row of the sleeve. Chain 1, turn, make this a back post. Continue around in the same way we have been. And like I said, if you need a tutorial just for this stitch, we're going to use it in the collar as well. It's a lot easier than it looks, and I do have a video tutorial for it that I will link below. You can use it for half double crochet, you can do double crochet. I'm sure you could use it for single crochet, although I never have. I know that you can use it with triple crochet because I was contemplating using that for this pattern, but I decided against it on the collar anyway. So we will continue around until we meet back up. Let's do a back post around that one. We're going to join to the top of the first back, which would be the top of this one right here. Now, on all of the patterns, the very last row of the sleeve is just a single crochet row in each stitch around. So we're going to chain one and turn. And we're just going to single crochet in each stitch around. And then we'll join, then we'll fasten on, or fasten off, and weave in all of our ends. It got me, semantics. So I'll get, I'm going to go ahead and finish up this sleeve, and then I'm going to freshen up my camera battery and weave in all of the ends throughout the rest of the cardigan, and we will start on the collar, and then we are done with the entire cardigan. I feel like that went pretty quick. Awesome. I hope this video is really helping to explain some of the difficult parts of the pattern. I don't feel like we've gotten there yet. The collar is definitely the most intense reading, I suppose, of the pattern, so that we will make sure to do a very slow, good job on. I know I crochet fast, but I will make sure to go slower when we do the collar. All right, that one's taken. Remember how we did it where if it's taken, it's not available. So slip stitch that together. I'm going to clip this yarn. I'm going to weave in all of my ends throughout the entire cardigan. I've got all these just kind of hanging out, and then we will start the collar together. All right, we are finished with both of the sleeves. We're finished with the front and back and everything else. I've woven in all of the ends except for the two shoulder pieces here. I'm going to leave these intact. I've done everything else. So we are ready to start the first row, row 1 of the ribbing, right? This is the most confusing row, I think, of the whole thing, or it could be, I guess. But it's not that bad. First off, I want to point out that every size you make is going to have a different number right here. So you're going to start your collar essentially different places, right, for every row, because for every size, because every size is going to be taller or smaller than the other. So what I like to do, depending on whichever size I'm making, I like to go ahead and use my stitch markers and mark 60 stitches up on both sides. So we're going to start by half double crocheting in 60 stitches, and then we're going to start these increases for the collar, and then when we get to the other side, we're going to have 60 stitches of regular half double crochet all the way to the end. Okay, so I've went ahead and marked 60 stitches up from the end over here on both sides. Now I'm going to pull my work over here so that we can get a look at what I'm doing. I'm going to move the pattern here, so we'll be needing that in just a moment. Now I've gone ahead and attached my yarn to the bottom. So now I'm going to do my 60, whoops, excuse me, I'm going to do my 60 half double crochets to get to that stitch marker. So I'm going to do all the way until I get to that stitch marker. And that number is going to be different, of course. Also on the collar, some of the sizes require more collar than others, right? The larger sizes need a larger collar. So be sure to watch your rows. Your collar may not be exactly as mine, but all of the steps are basically the same. There's just different numbers of rows and different stitch counts. So just keep that in mind as you're working. Make sure to look at the pattern for the size you are making and not just follow what I'm doing. Almost there. When we get there, we're going to do a whole bunch of increases, and then we're going to do the increases along the neck back here. I think this is probably where people get hung up on this one. So we are going to remedy that today. All right, we are almost there. When I get to that stitch marker, that is going to be 80 or 60. Okay, 59. I'm going to leave the stitch marker in there and just go in here. Okay, we'll remove it here in a second. I like to keep it there. I don't know why, I just do. So now we're going to look at our pattern. You're going to have to pull your pattern out and read it carefully as well. Basically, we are going to do 2 half double crochet in the next, and then half double crochet in 2 stitches. So 2 in this one, and then half double crochet in next 2 stitches right here. So 1 each in 2 stitches. 1, 2. And now we're here. We're going to do 2 half double crochets in the next 2 stitches. So we're going to do 2 and 2. So pull this up a little. 1, 2, and the next one, 1, 2. Okay. Now we're going to half double crochet in the next, and then 2 half double crochet in the next. So 1 half double crochet here, and 2 in the next. 1, 2. Now we are going to half double crochet in the next, 2 half double crochet in the next, and then half double crochet in the next. So 1, 2, 1. This one that we do here is going to be in the shoulder seam stitch. So let's do this one first. We'll do the half and then 2, and then we'll put that one in the shoulder seam. So there's 1. In the next one we're going to put 2, 1, 2, and then in the next one we're going to half double crochet in the next, which is the shoulder seam stitch. So when we sewed this together, see if I can put this in a way that makes sense. Okay, when we sewed this together, this is where our thread is still attached, our yarn is still attached. We're going to go into this stitch right here because that's where that is sewn into. So we're going to go half double crochet into that stitch. Okay, so that is the shoulder seam stitch. Next we're going to do a half double crochet 2 together in the same that we just did and the next stitch. So those are the shoulder seam stitches, one from the front and one from the back. And then we're going to half double crochet in the same. So we put 1 in this one, we're going to do a half double crochet that straddles that corner. So we're going to go into the same right here, pull up a loop, and then we're going to pull this. This is why we haven't woven in these yarn ends, right? We're going to pull this yarn tight, and we're going to half double crochet in that space where this is. There we go. So now we're going to half double crochet that. Let's pull this a little bit out of the way. All right, perfect. And now we're going to half double crochet in that same place. Okay, so this is the first one on the sewn, this is the half double crochet together, and this is the first one on the back in the same stitch as this half double together. We've got one here together and then one in the same. Okay, there are close-ups of this in the pattern if you need close-up pictures with arrows pointing to where to go. Now we've gotten to this period here. Now we're going to 16 half double crochet across the neck, right? There's a photo for it in the pattern too, figure 3. So we're going to 16 half double crochet across the neck. In each of the patterns, you should only have 8 rows, okay, along the back here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows. So we're going to put 2 half double crochets in the ends of each row. So I'm going to start that in this end right here. And again, in the pattern, I give you pictures of exactly where to put those stitches. So we're going to do 1, 2. The next one, we're going to go in the end of the next row, which is going to be right here. So we're going to do 2 here, 1, 2. And the next one, we're going to do 2 in the end of the row, which is right here. So we're going to go 1, 2. Then the next one is going to be this one right here. So we're going to do 2 there, 1, 2. And the next one we're going to do 2 in the top of this row right here, 1, 2. Next one is the top of this row right here, 1, 2. And then we're going to do 2 in the top of this one, 1, 2. Let's see if we've got our 16 yet. There's our together, the same one. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then we're going to go 15, 16. And now we're going to do the decrease that we did just the other way. I'm going to reset my camera. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so now we've done the 16 half double crochet across the neck. Now we're going to half double crochet in the shoulder seam stitch across the back. Then we're going to do the same thing where we half double crocheted in the same and the next, so the 2 shoulder seam stitches, and then half double crochet in the same. Okay, not as hard as it sounds. This is our corner. So basically we're going to put a stitch here, we're going to straddle this corner, and then we're going to put another one here. So this is going into this stitch. This is where you need to, this is also why I like to have these stitch markers here, because it helps to make sure that I have the right amount of stitches here before going all the way to the end of that row and figuring out that I had it wrong. Okay, so I'm going to go into the next one right here. Now I'm going to do a half double crochet between this one and the next one. Right here, and then right here. Okay, let's complete that. Now we're going to do a half double crochet in the same. And there we go. Okay, so now we have the increase here, all of these increases across the back, and now we've made it to the other side of the front. So now we're going to basically repeat the sequence we did over here, right over here, so that it mirrors it on the other side. Let me move my cardigan. So we are at this period. We're going to 2 half double crochet in the next, 1 in the next. 2 right here, 1 in the next. We're going to 2 half double crochet in the next, half double crochet in the next. 1, 2, 1. We're going to 2 half double crochets in the next 2 stitches. So 2 in each of the next 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now we're going to half double crochet in the next 2 stitches, so just 1 in the next 2. So 1, 1. Now we are going to 2 half double crochet in the next, and then half double crochet in 60 stitches. So we're going to 2 half double crochet right here, and this should always be, if you've marked your stitches, this last stitch right here should always be right before your stitch marker on this particular row. No matter how many you're doing from here on out, it's always going to be the same, right? So now we've reached the part of the pattern where I'm just going to half double crochet all the way to the end. Alright, we're finished with row 1. We're about ready to start row 2. So I folded this part so we can see it. I thought that'd be easiest. Now this row, we're going to half double crochet in 52 stitches. Of course, this is going to be different for different sizes. This one in particular is 52 here and 52 on the other side, right? So what I've done is I've gone ahead and moved my stitch markers to where they are 52 up from the bottom. So this is 52, this is 52, and then we're going to be doing our increases along here again. So I'm starting to half double crochet my way up to this stitch marker, and then we will start our increases. Let me get there. I've done part of the work, just not all of it yet. After this row, we will start doing our back post, front post, or our front post, back post, ribbing, and that is always fun. All right, we are getting there. Move my sleeve out of the way, it's pulling on my yarn. Okay, so we are almost to 52, and then we're going to start our increases. Okay, so this would be 52 where I've placed my stitch marker. So now I'm going to go ahead and start doing my increases around the collar here. Okay, so for those increases, we are going to, we've already done our 52, we are going to, this has asterisks in here, so that means that we are going to repeat whatever's inside of these 2 asterisks right here, right? Repeat between those 2 asterisks 5 times. So first we're going to 2 half double crochet in the next, half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So we are going to, let me pull this closer, we're going to 2 half double crochet in the next, 1, 2, then we are going to half double crochet in the next 2 stitches, 1, 2. Now we're going to repeat that sequence 5 times. So what I like to do is I like to count it out. 1, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, and then this will be 5, 2, 3, 4. So this means that we have completed that sequence 5 times, right? Let's see what's next. So we've repeated in between those 5 times. Now we're going to 2 half double crochet in the next. Okay, 2 half double crochet in the next. 1, 2. Now we are going to double crochet in the next 28 stitches. So let's just double crochet across and count together. Notice I still haven't woven in these ends here because I just don't want to yet. I'm going to use it for later. Okay, so we're going to double crochet 28 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So there are 28 double crochets across the back of this neck. Let's read what we need to do next. Okay, now we are going to 2 half double crochet in the next, half double crochet in the next 2 stitches, repeat that 5 times. So basically the same exact thing we just did, okay? So we're going to do our counting to 5 again. We got to do the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to start our repeats, okay? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Now one more time. So this will be 5, 2, 3, 4. Now we've got 1 stitch left before our stitch marker, so let's see. So we've repeated that 5 times. Now we're going to 2 half double crochet in the next, and then half double crochet in the next 52. So I'm going to do 2 half double in the next. 1, 2, and now I'm going to just complete half double crochets in this stitch, move over marker, and in each stitch to the end. When I get done with this row, I'm going to move my stitch markers to line up with row 3, and we will get started on row 3 together. All right, on to row 3. Row 3 stipulates that we should start with 48 stitches and end with 47, technically 48. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and this 48 stitches and this number discrepancy is the same in every size. So just take note of round 3 of row 3. You're still going to mark 48 stitches up from both sides. Okay, so I've already done that here. These are both 48 stitches up. I'm almost there. So I'm going to completely get to 48, and then we will start the first part of the ribbing. Okay, so here's 48. So I've half double crocheted in my 48. Now the directions state to front post double crochet around the next post, back post double crochet around the next. So we're going to be repeating a front post double crochet, back post double crochet in turn. So we're going to repeat front, back, front, back, front, back for 43 times. So we've got our initial set and then we're repeating that 43 times. So now when I say in the pattern it says front post double crochet around the next post. Let me go ahead and move this so it's not dangling behind us. So I've done my 48 stitches, or however many the pattern calls for. We're going to front post double crochet around the next post. The next post is this one right here. So we're going to do our front post double crochet around the next post. Okay, double crochet. And now we're going to do back post double crochet, and then we're going to do front, and then we're going to do back and front and back and front and back all the way until we get around over here. So we're just going to completely do our front post, back post, yada yada. When you get to where these increases were on the last row, round row, make sure that you are not doing both of them, that you are doing them individually. And remember, the first row of the back post, front post is always the most painful. And the number of times you repeat this may be different for which size you're making. It could be larger for larger sizes or the same. It just depends on what size you're making. Like I said, I know I've said this a lot, but since each size is different, make sure you're reading your corresponding row as I'm doing these with you. Or that you're at least looking at yours. Reposition. Starting that nice pretty ribbing. Love it, love it. I'm about halfway across the back of the neck now. So when we get to the end here, especially on this first row, I want to count and make sure that my number of repeats is correct. Almost there. Okay, so our mission on this row, I believe, was to do 43 repeats. So technically that's 44 because the first one counts as one, right? We're repeating the first one. So 43, so we should have 44 total front post, back post sets. So I'm going to reset my camera and we will count those stitches together and finish up this row. Okay, to count these front post, back post sets, this is the beginning of that row. We started here was our first front post. So we should have a total of 44 of these. This is the first one we did and we repeated this 43 times. So 1 is the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. So we have 44 total. Where'd my hook go? Case of the disappearing hook. So we've got 44 of these front post, back post, which is perfect. That's exactly what we should have. Now, on the next one, this is where we pay attention. We've done this 43 times. Now we're going to front post double crochet around the next. This is our back right here. We're going to front post around this one right here. We're right above or right below the stitch marker. Okay, front post double crochet, which we just completed, and that's going to make it line up to the other one on the other side, okay, so that you don't have a back over here and a front over here. That way they're uniform on both sides. So now we've got our front post done. Now we're going to half double crochet in the same and next 47 stitches, okay? So we're going to half double crochet in the same one, right? So in the same one would be where the stitch marker is. So technically we're doing 48, right? But this needs to be in the same one. So where this post is, right next to it. Okay, and that's a half double crochet. See how that looks? So this is our 44th back post. Then we did one more front post, and we did a half double in that one, and now there's 47 stitches left from here to the end. So I'm going to do one half double crochet in each one of these all the way until I get to the end, and then we are going to prepare to do the bottom ribbing of the cardigan. All right, guys, we are at the end of row 3. We just finished row 3. So now we're going to do the optional bottom ribbing. If you do not want the bottom ribbing, chain 1, turn, and skip to the next row. If you do want that ribbing, go ahead and do this part with me. So we are going to, and keep a note, the row number might be different depending on your size. This one's 3 because it's the smallest. So we're going to 2 half double crochet in the same stitch, and then we're going to turn our work and we're going to go along the bottom all the way around to the other side. We're going to 2 half double crochet in that end stitch, and we're going to end up with 92 stitches. So we're going to do the 2 half double crochet in the same and then turn and go into the bottom. I also want to note here that if you want to do the bottom ribbing, mark the last stitch completed from row 3. So I've got my mark here, my stitch marker. This is the last stitch from row 3. I'm going to go ahead and mark that stitch because I don't want to confuse that later. Okay, so we're going to do 2 more. Pull this a little bit. We're going to do 2 more in this bottom right here. 1, 2. And now we're going to go into the row ends all the way across. I've went ahead and marked these because I thought it would be easier as we're talking through the video. The first stitch is going to go right into the end of this row right here. So I'm going to do 1. This is going in the end of that row. And then the next one. Whoops. Take that out. Thankfully, I've only marked a few of these, and I'm not left-handed. Can you tell? Okay, let's go into this next one right here. Next row end is this one. Right here. There we go. That's where we did the first one from that upper collar. We're doing 1 stitch in each row end. Take a look. See how even that is? We've got 1 in every end. So these are going to line up very nicely when we start doing our front post, back post, half double in the next row. Looking nice. Now this is where I connected the second side. I just wanted to make sure I had that marked. Should remove that when I get there. You don't have to do that. I was doing it in preparation for the video. Someone's clod hopping upstairs. Okay, let me take this out. Where these are connected, you have to find where it goes. So if you want to stop here and count, that's why I put the stitch marker there. If you want to stop there and count and make sure that you're still on pace, that's cool. Good idea. I'm going to count my stitches at the end of this row. Should have 98. Including, and that includes the 2 that we started with and then the 2 that we will end with. And that's where we fastened on to start the side, the inside. I'm going to go ahead and count my stitches and make sure we're on track. So you don't count the one with the stitch marker in it because that's the last one from row 3. So 1, 2, 3. Oops. $87, 88, 89, 90, and 2 in the last. 91. We're just going to put it in this last one, which is technically the first stitch of row 3, right? So we're going to do 1, 2, because then we've got 2 or 3 in over here, and we'll do 3 over here. So now we've got 98 stitches across the bottom. We are going to get ready to start rows 3B through 3F. All right, at the end of row 3A, we have 2 stitches in the very last, and then I like to put a stitch marker in the base of that. It's not really necessary, but I like to do it, so I thought I'd tell you about it too. Now rows 3B through 3F, so you're going to do B, C, D, E, F, right? We're going to chain 1, turn, half double crochet in the first stitch. Chain 1, turn, half double crochet in that first stitch. Now we are going to front post around the next stitch, back post around the next. We're going to repeat that 44 times to where basically until we get to the end of all of our stitches. So we are going to front post. We had 2 stitches in here in that last one, so we're going to front post around that other one that's in that last stitch. Okay, so that's a front, and then this one will be a back. And a front, and a back. This is where we fastened on when we started the edging here. So that's what that is. I'm going to ignore it for now. Probably should have woven that in, but that's okay. So now we're just going to continue this all the way to the end. When we get to the end, we're going to put a single half double crochet in the very last stitch. So now we're going to complete this row. We're going to do this same exact thing for 5 rows. So B, D, E, F. Wait, no. B, C, D, E, F. I know my alphabet, I promise. Oh, Lordy. I don't know what my deal is. All right. I hope you're getting a crack up out of me doing these videos. Oh, good Lord. All right, looking good. I think we're about halfway there. Getting close. I'm getting very close. Okay, now we got to the very end. This is the last stitch from row 3, right? So we're going to do our half double crochet in this one, which is the first of 3A. So this is where we end this row with the half double crochet in that last stitch. Okay? Now, since I know my alphabet, we are going to do 3C, which is the exact same thing. And front post, you're doing this so that your ribbing lines up. Okay? So we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to half double crochet in that first stitch, which is this one right here. And then we are going to front post around the front post, back post around the back post, front, back, all the way to the end. And we're going to do this until we get through rows 3F. So you're going to do this a total of 5 times. So I'm going to hook a few more with you, and then I'm going to complete these rows solo. You complete yours solo, I'll complete mine solo, and then we will hook back up at the end of row 3F, and we'll start that next portion. Right, so we've just completed row 3F, where we have all of this ribbing here at the bottom. We've ended up back at the start of at the end of row 3, so this is where we put our stitch marker at the end of row 3. We've done 3A through 3F, and now we're going to start row 4. If you'll notice at the end of the bottom ribbing, it says to start row 4, going up the side of the ribbing stitches, half double crochet in the same and next 5 stitches. So we're going to be back at the marker from the end of row 3. So I'm going to insert my hook. We are going to do half double crochet in the same, oops, I'm wrapped, half double crochet in the same right here, and then in the next 5 stitches. So we're going to place 5 stitches. This will probably be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we'll go into this one. Might help if you count backwards. 1. I'm going to go in the side of that stitch, 2, 3, 4 in the side of that stitch, and then 5 will be this last one right here. And now we are ready to start row 4. So here's our bottom corner. So to start row 4, we're going to, remember each size is different, we're going to half double crochet in 47 stitches. So this will be our first one where the stitch marker is. And that's why it's helpful to place that at the end of row 3, so that you know this is for sure where I should be starting. So we're going to do 47. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, pull my yarn, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Got a little yarn barf here, or a big yarn barf. I think that was 13. We'll count before we stop, we'll count.
Okay, so this is partly why we leave this here in case we lose count. So this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, just in time for yarn barf. Figure this out real quick. Okay, so we have done our 47 stitches. Now we are going to front post around the next post, back post around the next, and we're doing this so that the ribbing lines up. If you'll notice, every pattern size, it's going to be, you're going to front post around the next post, back post around the next one. See, this one already has the beginnings of a back post from row 3. So now we're going to front post around the next post. To continue that ribbing, we're just pulling that ribbing a little bit farther down the front of the cardigan. So now we're going to back post around the one that was already there. And then we're just going to repeat front post, back post, however many times it says in the pattern. This one says 44 times, so we're going to repeat that first one 44 times so that we have a total of 45, right? The first one and then repeating 44. Front post, half post, sets. Front post, back post, sets. Oops. We should be doing DCs. Hold on. Let's fix this real quick. Because I was not thinking. Okay, this is 47. We're going to make these double crochets. Sorry. To the back of the neck. Some more yarn barf here. Got it. Getting there. Once we finish these front post, back post, then we will go through and count the sets to make sure we're correct. And then we'll do the half double crochet down the rest of that side. I'm gonna go right here. Let me reset my camera. Almost there. And we should have a total of 45 front post, back post sets. And this would be back, and then we've got a front and a back. See that? We've got one left. We've got one front post left and then one back post left. So let's do those, and then we'll look at the pattern. All right, so we should have 44 plus the first one, so 44 times total. Let's count those. Pull this out a little bit. We've got, there's our first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Perfect. Now we're going to front post around the next, and then we're going to half double crochet in the next 47. So we're going to do a front post around the next, and that is to make it mirror the other side, how we started a little earlier on that side. This is going to bring it down just a little bit on this side as well. So we're going to front post around this one right here. So here's our back post right here. We're going to do a front post around this one, and then we are going to half double crochet in 47 stitches. If you want, it might be beneficial to start from the bottom and count 47 till you get to right here, just to make sure that you're going into the right stitch. It should be the next open stitch, which is this one right here. Right here. 1. Pull that one just a little bit tighter. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 46, and this is where we placed our stitch marker from the last one, so this is 47. Woohoo! right, so now we have completed row 4. I'm going to get relayed back out and we will start row 5. Okay, so at the end of row 4, if you did do the ribbing, we did our 47 stitches. We want to do that half double crochet in the next 6 so that it matches the other bottom side. We can't just have, like this has a nice clean edge on it and this one has this dirty raw edge. So let's do our half double crochet 6 times through the end of the down to the bottom. Okay, so we're going to go in here, 1, 2, let's see, let's do our 3. I want to make sure I don't go straight into that big hole because then that'd be obvious. So we're going to kind of hook the side of this stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's get the side of this stitch. This will be number 5. Let's see, where are we going? Right here. And then we'll do number 6. Nice. All right. Okay, row number 5. We're going to chain 1, turn, half double crochet in the first. So we chain 1, turn. We're going to half double crochet in the first. And now we are going to back post around the next post, front post around the next, and these are half double crochets. We're going to repeat that on this row. This is the row directly after the first ribbing row. We're going to need to pay attention. If you did not do the ribbing, you're going to do it 22 times. If you did do the ribbing, you're going to do it 25 times because we have to account for this bottom section right here. So we did do the ribbing. So we're going to do the repeat of the back post half double crochet, front post half double crochet 25 times. When we get done with this portion, we're going to have 53 stitches so far. Okay, so we're going to start with a back post. Then a front post, and these are half doubles. Back post. Front post. Back. Front. Now we are going to continue all the way till we have those 53 stitches. So here's what it looks like. So this is our bottom ribbing, and this is the side ribbing that's going up the side of the cardigan. And basically, we're just doing half double crochet until we get to here, and then we're going to start double crochets. That kind of helps that collar pop a little bit, just by adding the additional height of the double instead of the half double. Almost there. All right, let's take a look. So here's our first, we started with the back. So here's our first back, our first front. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Now, let's see, okay, I went too far. So we did that 25 times, okay? This, let's see. Let me make sure I know what I'm doing here. Okay, we do need that extra one because that would be 26, because we've been repeating it. So our initial and then repeat 25 times. So a total of 26 front posts from the bottom to where we are ready to start the double crochets. So if you'll look, now it's obvious that the next stitch that we have is going to be this one, which is a back post, right? So let's take a look. Okay, we've repeated that. So we did our first one, we repeated it 25 times so that we had a total of 26 sets. Now we're going to back post double crochet around the next and front post double crochet around the next. We're going to repeat that around the entire neck, so 44 times for a total of 45 double crochet double crochet back and front repeats, and then we'll stop and we'll reassess. Okay, so this is going to be our first back post double crochet, front double. Now we're going to repeat that sequence 44 times. And this is the last difficult row, or somewhat difficult row. And then we are going to just start doing regular ribbing along the entire front. We've only got 2 rows left of the entire cardigan and we are finished. So all of these are double crochets. If you want to, probably a good idea, let me get my stitch marker. It's probably a good idea to mark where you did the last of the half double crochets so that you can count easier. I thought that was it, but I wanted to double check. Okay, so this is my last front post, right? So this is my first back post double crochet right here. So this is where I'm going to start my counting when I get to the other side to make sure that I've got those 45 doubles, sets of doubles. On our way to the neck. Yeah, I've really found that stitch markers are pretty important in this pattern for multiple reasons. It just makes things go a lot smoother. Of course, you don't have to use them.
So, Mom?
Just a minute, bud. Okay, we're getting to the end here of the doubles, and then we're going to do half doubles from here on. And when we get to that point where the front post, back post stops off, we're going to count to make sure that we've got the right number of front post, back post sets here, which is 45 total. Keep in mind that the number may be different depending on what size you're making, especially if you're making the tall versions. I'm getting close. Okay, let's count from our stitch marker where we place, this is our half doubles on this side, this is where the doubles start, so this is our last front of the half, so this would be one of double, right? First double, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Perfect. So now, let's see what we do next. Okay, we repeated right here, right? We just did the back post double crochet around the next, front post double crochet around the next, and we repeated that 44 times for a total of 45. Now we're going to back post half double crochet around the next and front around the next. Basically, we're doing that all the way until we get to the end, and then we're going to do this last bit. So right now, we are going to back post half around the next, front post half around the next. And we will repeat that until we get to the end. Okay, we're going to back post half front post half. Let's make sure we did that correctly. It should all line up nice and pretty if you did. So you don't have two fronts together or two backs together. Okay, let's complete these half doubles to the end. Okay, we are almost to the end of this row. Now when we get to the very end, we've repeated that 25 times. Now we're going to back post half double crochet around the next and half double crochet in the last. So back post around the last available, right? And then we're going to half double crochet in the very last. So I'm going to go into, this one is technically this one. Let's see. No, that doesn't look right. We'll do it in the next one. There we go. Very nice. Now we are going to start row 6. Row 6 is and row 7 are both very, very easy. We're very excited about that. I just noticed earlier that I need to update these stitch counts. This should be 185 and this should be 197 because I only added 6 and I should have added 12. So I will fix that and I'll update the pattern. All of the other ones are the same because I know I've looked at it about a million times. So, correct. So now we're going to chain 1, turn, half double crochet in the first, and then around the entire piece, there's no counting or anything. We're just going to front post double crochet around the next, back post around the next, around the entire thing. When we get to the end, we're going to half double crochet in the last stitch. So no counting, no anything. We're going to chain 1, turn. We're going to half double crochet in the first. Right? Now we are going to front post double crochet. So these are all going to be double crochets the entire way around. This is creating a nice ribbing look. You can kind of tell the difference between a double crochet and a half double crochet. I mean, I don't think the average person would be able to tell, but it does create like a nice little ridge where you can put your buttons if you want to. Remember that you don't need buttonholes for this. If you use buttons that are about a 3/4 inch, they will go right through the ribbing, like right here. They'll go through any of these holes and they'll be big enough to hold without coming undone or without creating buttonholes. If you want to add a zipper instead, there is a tutorial for that as well on my YouTube channel. So we're doing half double crochets, front post, back post, double crochets all the way around. I'm going to continue all the way around. When we get to that last stitch, I will let you know, and we will do that together. Alright guys, we are at the end of row 6. Okay, here I am coming up at the end of row 6. I'm going to complete all of my double crochets. Front post, front post, back post. Okay, when we get to the end, we are going to front post around the last front post and half double crochet in the last. So here's the back, here's the front, and then we're going to half double crochet in that last right here. Lovely. So now we're going to start row 7. Row 7 is the same exact thing, only we are doing half double crochet instead of double crochet, right? So we're making the ribbing line up. So we're going to chain 1, turn, half double crochet in the first, and then we're going to back post, front post all the way around. So half double in the first. Now we're going to back in the back, half double, front in the front, half double, and we're going to continue that all the way around. No counting, no nothing, just all the way to the other side of the cardigan. This is our last complete row. Yay! Let's do a happy dance. We're going to do this half double crochet. I probably won't do the whole thing with you on camera because this is literally what we're doing. When we get to the end, we do have one more step to complete your cardigan, and that is going to be to do a single crochet row all around the opening, around the bottom, around the inside. You never have to fasten off. You just continue crocheting all the way around. There is a trick to the corners, so when we get to that, we'll do that together, and then we will be completely done minus buttons or zipper. Super exciting. Alright, we are all the way to the end of row 7. Keep in mind that different sizes will have different numbers. Some of these will go up to row 10 or 11, depending on what size you're making. So we've gone all the way around. We are going to half double crochet in the last, like we've been, right? Now we are completely done with our cardigan, except for that last row. Or the last bit. Around the entire piece, we're going to single crochet in the same stitch that we just were in, single crochet, and then we're going to single crochet in each stitch around the bottom edge to the other side, 2 single crochet in that corner as well so that it doesn't curl or pucker, and then we're going to single crochet up around the collar, down the other side, fasten off, and weave in our ends. So here we're going to do a single crochet in the same, and we're going to single crochet in each stitch. This is the side of your ribbing, right? So we're cleaning up that edge. Now we get to the stitches from the bottom, so you're just going to go into the top of those stitches that we created through the ribbing. Oops, my hand wants to do half double. So we're just going to do single crochets all the way across the entire piece. And when we get to the other side, putting 2 or sometimes even 3 depending on what you're making, putting multiple stitches in the corner helps it to keep from curling and turning and getting too rounded. So if you've got corners that you're doing, even just putting a border on a blanket, it's good to do extra stitches in the corner to make it to where it doesn't do that. And on here, I have a couple, some of them I've put zippers on, some of them I've put the buttons on. It really just depends on, for me, the sizing also. You've got to remember that when you put a zipper on there, you're not overlapping, right? If you put buttons on, you have to overlap in order to close the buttons. So you might keep that in mind for sizing. Oops. How nice and clean that looks. Let's go all the way to the other corner. We're going to do 2 there and then single crochet around the entire collar. Okay, 2 in that corner, and now we're going to go up the inside. So this is the bottom, and now this is the inside of the cardigan. So now we're going to go single crochet all the way around until you get to the other side, and that is it. Here's the neck. We're just going to go all the way to the other side. Okay, we have single crocheted around the entire opening with 2 in each corner. We are back to the beginning of our single crochets. When we get there, we are going to fasten off and weave in all of our ends. Ta-da! Go ahead and pull this through. And that is it. Let's trim this. We're going to pull this through just like that. We will use this to weave in our ends, and we are finished with the cardigan. The only other thing we need to do is, if you haven't woven in all of your ends yet, you'll need to do that. I only have 2 left, and those are the 2 that we left back when we did our shoulders right here. So I need to weave these in. Other than that, we are completely done with the cardigan. I'll show you pictures when I get it all laid out.